Hey everybody, welcome to Secure the Seat Live. I am your host, Minda Hartz, and I am so happy that you're here with us. If you're watching us live on Monday, you could be anywhere on the internet, but you're here with us, and so I don't take that lightly. If it's your first time watching, you're already like family, you're part of the squad, but if you rock with me every Monday at noon, welcome back. You know the vibes. It's no different. I'm excited to talk today about networking. I know some of you probably cringe at even the thought of it, right? But I have my good friend and CEO, Angelina Darrisaw, a C-suite coach. She's going to talk about to give us those tips to feel comfortable after networking. During the pandemic, after the pandemic, you might still feel like you're in the pandemic. I mean, we still are in a pandemic, but after quarantining, now we're out and about. I don't know about you, but I was out with some friends last weekend and I actually started to get like a little social anxiety, which is not something that I typically do, but I felt like overwhelmed by seeing so many people and having to talk and all the things. So I don't know if you felt that way. So I'm actually going to be taking notes too. So make sure that you vibe with us in the chat. If you have any questions today, make sure that you drop them in so that Angelina can get to them. Again, I'm so happy that you're here. Make sure you ping someone because we don't just secure our seat, we make sure others have their seat as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Angelina to the stage and we're going to get the party started. Angelina.
Absolutely. And thank you. So I would just say, everyone's pandemic experience has been really different. And also depending on where you fit on that introvert extrovert scale, you might have different needs right now. So just respecting your own needs and what you're looking for in terms of the amount. I love that Minda just addressed having some social anxiety. If you've been really alone for the last year, last couple of months, then getting back into it can be a bit overwhelming. And I want you to honor that feeling and not force yourself to do more than you can take on. So what does that look like? That might mean if you've been really alone for weeks or months, almost a year at a time, then maybe you're not starting off with booking your whole social calendar. You might pick one or two events that are really meaningful to you and have a plan of how you're going to attack those events so you can build new interactions. I will also say that people's circles have gotten tighter. This time has been so difficult for so many of us. Financial concerns, family losses. It's just been a lot, right? So also understand that, now is the time to look for deeper ways to connect with people, really do wellness checks when you're making new connections. And you want to take it slow as you're easing back into it. But the last thing I'll say on this point is you also want to make sure that you are being intentional about building a network because our careers don't stop just because of everything going on externally. So we still have to have a strategy in place to build new connections if we want to keep developing the relationships that are going to take us to the next level in our careers and in business.
Very good. I liked what you said about taking it slow because a lot of us, it seems like sometime when we feel overwhelmed, we feel like we have to do everything at one time.
Yes.
And what you're talking about is very important. And I know our listeners, the chat is blowing up. We have a lot of people giving a lot of good feedback. And I believe Minda's on now, so I'll transition it back to Minda.
Networking has changed, as we know. Many of us used to hit up different events, those sorts of things. How are you encouraging your clients to approach this new normal?
Well, so another thing that's been a big shift is, and we just had for C-Suite Coach a chat about this. We're now in a hybrid workforce, right? There are some companies that are saying, let's get back to it. We're in the offices. You got to come back in person. And there are others that are saying, you know what? Let's keep it remote. It was working. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's keep it remote. And that's also led to some challenges in figuring out what are the best ways to network. So if you're completely virtual, I would be thinking this can't mean that I'm not building new relationships just because I'm not in the office. So what does that look like? That might mean, after the meeting, we would have the water cooler talk and the debrief after the debrief and all those sorts of things that help build relationships and also gave that insight, that critical insight that we need to understand what's happening within our organizations. Where do we fit? So if you're completely virtual, you do have to find ways to build that in a virtual setting. That might mean, hey, let's hop on Ping or on Slack or whatever channels you use after a meeting and get that debrief happening there. It also means that you want to do more of building relationships that are personal, that we're not doing, don't make all of your meetings about business. So we used to do that in person. Show the pictures of your family, of your dog, whatever else. What did you do on the weekend? Build that time into the agenda of your meetings so you're actually getting to know the people you're working with at your organization. If you're completely in person, there's other strategies that we can talk about there as well.
I love how you were saying that using your, some of the things that are happening in your personal life and being personable in your digital network, that's also a good thing. Sometimes we think we have to be so separate, or we go from one extreme to the next. So
and what's so important about that, Mike, is because some people think that to have a digital presence means I have to be a macro level influencer. I have to have 100,000 followers, and that's a strong digital presence. That can be it. That's one way. But another way is to be really niche, really intentional, and really focused on the people who are in your network, and use, even if it's a small audience, using that strategically to build your relationships is important too.
That's awesome, Angelina. Thank you so much for sharing that with our viewers. I think our final question, many of us are attending virtual events now. What are some tips you have for us, for the people in the chat and the viewers who are listening who are attending virtual events? What would you tell us?
Okay, so I am such a fan of virtual events. I will tell you, one of the programs that my company manages, we host 60 to 80 events per month, right? So that is a lot of events per month. And I've gotten really good at just watching what goes on with different virtual events, right? So I will tell you, the first tip I would have is make sure you engage with people in the room the same way you would if you showed up in person. You shouldn't be sitting in the corner in the back by yourself. You want to be engaged with what the facilitator or the speaker is saying. Make comments in the chat. Share why it's relevant to you. Oh, you just talked about virtual networking. This is really important to me in my role as senior marketing director at X company, where I'm constantly seeking X. So put that in the chat. Everyone can read it. You build relationships with who's speaking, but also in the room when you engage. And I will say, we've gotten really good. We've been doing this thing for a year and a half now, right? Of these virtual events. So they've gotten really good. They sometimes will have, it's not just the typing and the messaging feature anymore. I've seen conferences where you have full profiles you can fill out and share information about yourself. They have networking, speed networking events you can go to virtually. If any of those features are available, take advantage of it. Fill out your full profile. Let people know how to follow up with you and connect with you later. So my key point here is that you don't want to just be a passive attendee at these events. You really want to make sure you're actively engaging, and that's the path to building new relationships. If you synced with someone, if you met with someone, or they made a comment, send a LinkedIn request. Whenever you send a LinkedIn request, I highly recommend adding a note, because some people, like myself, I'm sure like Minda, get hundreds of LinkedIn requests all the time. Add a note. This is why I'm adding you. It really stuck out to me that you said X and X at this conference, and I want to continue to engage with your content or with you. So just be really personable when you do that follow-up as well.
Very good. Thank you so much, Angelina. That's awesome. Awesome advice. Our chat, we have a few questions in our chat here. I believe there's a question, and I'm paraphrasing it, from Tasha. She said, when it comes to returning to the new normal, I'm a new first-time mom, and I feel like the assumption is, as it pertains to my professional aspirations, is that I will be a liability, not a resource. So I believe what she's saying is, as a mother, as someone who's in one of those roles, how does she change her perspective when it comes to interviewing and doing things like that? Is there a way? Should she take her, her strengths as a mother? Should she, how should she approach, her moving up in her professional career as she approaches the workplace again?
Yes, and that was Tasha?
Yes.
Yeah. So first of all, Tasha, congratulations and kudos to you because you're already managing so much, right? And what's so interesting is I've even seen a shift where, say, you stepped out of the workforce for a while to be a stay-at-home mom, or if that was one of your responsibilities, folks are even adding that to their resumes now, right? Because it's being understood how much of a task that is and how much work you're actually doing, right? So there is a shift that is starting to happen with an understanding of the value of that role that you're playing. I'll also say just this morning, there's another career coach I follow. Her name is Nikki Webb. I believe her Instagram is Nikki Webb HR. And she posted some data about this around how folks people who are partnered, who have children, actually oftentimes do more and contribute more at work because there's higher stakes for them. So I would definitely encourage you to go check out the research that she posted and use that as an argument. Bring some of those stats to the table about how invested you are. Again, there's more research coming out about the contributions and what the stakes are for you. So I bring all that to the table if you're ever questioned about how committed you'll be because you're a parent.
Wow, thank you so much. If we had a tambourine here, I know many man taking us to church here. So, man, killing it with the questions. We have one more question. We'll take one more question from the audience, then we'll move on to our bonus questions. Mia Hall says, how can you manage wearing many hats at a small company without feeling overwhelmed, but still having to meet high expectations in all areas you're responsible for? Wow, that's an awesome question.
That is. Thank you so much, Mia. And, that has been a challenge for many folks working at a small business, or if you're perhaps in a role that's just been created and you're still defining the parameters. So I would say really start to look at what you can systemize. I'm a small business owner myself. So this is one of the things we're always looking to get more and more efficient at. And that could be making sure all of our meetings, I recently shared on Twitter that I met with a strategic consultant. I've had one since November who works on our business. And one of the things that he offered is for me to get better at delegating, really outlining a project from start to finish. What are the tasks from before we've even engaged with the client to the post reporting we have to do after the client deal is done, and laying out every single task. And sometimes there's 100 different pieces that have to be done. But if you're not clear on all those tasks, then a lot of times you feel like you're rushing, it's difficult to delegate. It's difficult to know who should be doing what. So what we did is we took one client, laid it out from the pitch process to the end after the deal was done. And what we then did is said who could handle each task. And that then helped us figure out systems to put into place to make handling those tasks easier for everyone. So I would encourage you to look at the processes that are currently in place if you're managing a lot, and revisit that with your team. See if there's pieces that they could be taking on to offload some of the work that's not for you. Something else I think about often as a CEO, I always call what's a CEO task and what's a task, that helps the business move forward, but not necessarily focuses on my core strengths. And I think everyone within a company should look at themselves as a CEO and think about what are the key tasks I could be doing to help move the business forward. And if I'm not spending, call it 70 to 90% of my time there, then there needs to be a shift in how I'm spending my time because I'm not adding the best value to the organization.
Wow, wow, wow. If you're listening now and you're listening to Angelina, this is amazing. This is amazing content here. She is giving us the gems. She is breaking it down like a perm, as my mom used to say. She is breaking it down. This is amazing information. So if you're listening to live or you're going to rebroadcast this and share this, this is amazing information. Please, and we're dropping the link to the csuitecoach.com, which is Angelina's website information, and she has some amazing content on that. And before we move on, is there any? I know we shared the csuitecoach.com, and you were talking about you also have a coaching program also.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me share, Mike. And the reason why I'd love to talk about this is just because for the last 6 years, the coaches we work with, we've staffed within organizations, and we have not had a one-to-one service since we've launched. So this is the first time that we're allowing customers, you working professionals within an organization, to tap into the coaches that we staff for all of the Fortune 500 and major nonprofits that we work with. And our prices on that website are priced intentionally with our customers in mind, to be affordable, to be reasonable. Even still, we do encourage you to reach out to your employer and see if they'll sponsor a coaching engagement for you. If you have any questions about that, we have form letters you can use. You can reach out to us on our website, but it is all virtual engagements with 10 of our career coaches that we work with that we highly recommend, extremely skilled in developing talent. And we encourage you to check out those packages and work with us.
Wow, that's amazing. And I just dropped the link again. That's csuitecoach.com / C. You see it on your screen. You can see it on your screen. So make sure you become part of our coaching program. As the knowledge Angelina is sharing today, you can get further knowledge on her website. So let's support that. Let's definitely support that tribe. So let's get on to our bonus questions here. As Minda always, if Minda was here, she would give her spiel on of grits and about sugar. She hates sugar on her grits, as you all know. But the question is, I have to ask, how do you enjoy your grits? Do you enjoy grits, Angelina? And if so, please inform us on your recipe for grits, please.
Okay, so I love grits. I am currently in New York, visiting in New York right now, and I just had grits at the Edge in Harlem. Check it out if any of you are New Yorkers. And I like my grits with cheese, with some black pepper, with some cayenne pepper, a little spice to it. So that's how I have to take my grits. Good.
Minda is somewhere on her bad internet connection. She's somewhere
cringing,
gasping and saying, thank God she doesn't like sugar on her grits. So she's happy.
And do sweet grits.
That's awesome. And one of our last questions, as you know, as Minda always asks, what is your favorite rap lyric and why?
So I think when Minda first launched her podcast, it might be the same one. It hasn't changed for me in years. And there was just a debate a couple months back on my Instagram in terms of whether Jay-Z said well or whale. We determined it's well. But my favorite rap lyric is, I can sell ice in the winter. I can sell fire in hell. I'm a hustler, baby. I can sell water to a well. And I just love that. That gets me going. That song is my hype song before any good meeting I'm about to go into.
Please visit her website. She can also spit, as you can tell. So
I got bars.
She's got bars. So definitely got some bars there. So we're excited about that. And the last question, and thank you so much for joining us, everyone who's been in the chat, blowing up the chat. We see all your comments. And one of the comments I will share is Victor said, you made an interesting point earlier when you said 70 to 90% of your contribution should be focused on your strength, so you can really be contributing to the business. I remember when you said that, you said everybody should look at themselves as the CEO of the company. So I think that's a very, very, very important point. But the last question we have is, what is one tip you would give our leaders watching how to make the workplace better than you found it?
Yes, absolutely. So in 2016, I had a TED Talk where I talked about career advancement as a social justice issue. And there's so much. There was actually recently an article in Business Insider about the toll microaggressions are taking on the mental health of Black people in the workplace. And the more, my biggest tip would be, encourage authenticity at all levels. The more we are showing up fully as who we are, we're allowing the future, the next generation, to have to code switch less, to have to deal with less. So being who we are authentically is part of how we're all contributing to more equity in the workplace.
Wow, that's amazing. Less code switching and more authenticity. That's awesome. Well, I believe that's all for today. Next week, Minda will be joining us. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but Angelina, thank you so much for your time. And please visit her website. She has some amazing content, and we're excited about what happened on today's show. Thank you so much for joining us, Angelina.
Thank you, Minda.
Thank you so much. And everyone, have an awesome day. And we'll catch you next week on next week's show. Thank you.